about the story of the Edmund Fitzgerald and, of course, Gordon Lightfoot's song. We're going to have the tolling of the bell ceremony, featuring my brother and a memorial bell from the fire department of the city of Niagara Falls. Then we'll do a toast, and then we'll get into the music with Bruce and Jamie. So, the Edmund Fitzgerald was a ship, a freighter that operated in the Great Lakes, and it was launched in 1958. And of course, unfortunately, it met its demise on November 10th, 1975, so it's the 39th anniversary coming up. I'm just going to turn off my phone.
Gordon Lightfoot calling.
Yes. Yeah, well, last year I actually called to see if Gordon Lightfoot wanted to attend our event, and he was on tour at that time, and so he couldn't make it. But this is a painting showing the perilous final journey of the ship. A very classic photograph of this ship, 729 feet long. It carried iron ore pellets throughout the Great Lakes, which were mostly used to make sheet metal for the automotive industry in and around the Detroit area. And getting back to this, a little history about this whole event and how it came to be. It all started a long time ago up in Canada when our family was very interested in the ships on Lake Erie, and we would go into the Welland Canal and see the large freighters. And of course, we all remember in our family when the ship went down in 1975. And of course, there's a seamless connection between Gordon Lightfoot's song, which is a musical tribute in the form of a ballad. A ballad is a song that tells a story, or a poem that tells a story. So there's such a strong connection between these two. So when I was in 9th grade, my English teacher, Bill Greenman, was talking about the history of the ballad in English literature, and when he did that, he referred to the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald as a modern-day version of a ballad. So I remembered that. And then I heard a story on the radio one year when it was the commemoration of the event. And I thought, it would be interesting to create an art lesson for my students where they would create a visual tribute and introduce them, of course, to the song and the lyrics, and they came up with some really interesting things. So my brother John created a model at that time, which is on display over here from scratch as his tribute, and then we did a makeshift impromptu celebration one night at my art gallery. And of course, last year when the Lewiston Council of the Arts was developing their Discovery series for the year, that gave me the opportunity to do the first version of the Edmund Fitzgerald event, which we held here. And it was very successful, and we decided to do it again this year. But of course, we wanted to change the format to keep it a little more interesting. Now, a lot of people always think of the Titanic when they think of the Edmund Fitzgerald, because they're both ships that went down. And this is a great visual because it shows how long the Titanic was, 880 feet long, and of course 730 feet or 729 for the Edmund Fitzgerald. So it's only 150 feet difference between the two ships. And of course, this shows the depth of the water that the shipwreck is in today, 530 feet of water. Lake Superior is the largest of the Great Lakes. The maximum depth is 1,332 feet, so it's like an inland sea. Okay. A tribute, of course, is a gift or service showing respect, gratitude, or affection. Of course, Gordon Lightfoot, back in the day, came up with this ballad, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. We have the lyrics of the song, and I thought it would be a great way to do it, to show you, again, what inspired him. He was reading this article in Newsweek magazine from November 24th, 1975, and it's interesting to see how artists are inspired. So he was inspired to write this ballad, and of course the lyrics. And I have a video that I'd like to show, and the video has a lot of rare footage, and I can kind of talk over it, but it also plays the song. It starts off with the launch of the ship in 1958. And some people say the ship was doomed from the beginning, people who are superstitious, because when it was launched, of course, Mrs. Fitzgerald, Edmund Fitzgerald's wife, we had the honor of breaking the bottle of champagne on the bow of the ship, and it took her 3 strikes to break it. And of course, they had trouble on getting the ship into the water. Once it went into the water, a huge tidal wave was formed, and there was a lot of spectators. This was a big deal back in the day. People dressed up in suits and dresses and go to these launches of these ships. And this tidal wave soaked the people in the stands, and someone had a heart attack and died. So a lot of people saw that as a bad omen. So. Well, without any further ado, I'd like to present this musical video to everyone.
An air and sea search is
Very reasoner.
Survivors of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a 729-foot ore carrier, which apparently broke apart and sunk last night on Lake Superior. The ship and its 29-man crew vanished in the storm with 80-mile-an-hour winds and wave heights up to 25 feet. All you can found is an oil slick and some debris.
Show some of the debris that they found. Here's the launch. Now they'll show it being loaded with the iron ore pellets, the taconite. Captain McSorley, at hands. Encountered 35-foot waves during this winter storm. Now they have some underwater footage of the ship at the bottom of the Lake Superior. The lighthouses were all out of power that night.
right before you came in, he said all lighthouses and power. I'm not surprised. You should have emergency backup. Yeah, well, this was back in '75. It's all GPS now, but today they still use it.
Well, yeah, 29 men went through the mine. I love that picture at the end. This guy's waving. Okay, here's some quick facts about the event. The ship itself weighed 13,632 tons. It was carrying double its weight, 26,000 tons of iron ore, and of course the wreck is in 530 feet of water. Of course, this is the story of the ballad, the history of the ballad, which came from England and Scotland about 800 years ago, and that's the form that Gordon Lightfoot used in his song. People like B.B. King and other blues musicians found the ballad to be the perfect format for expressing their emotional songs. This is the map of the Great Lakes, and of course, if you look at Lake Superior, it looks like the head of a wolf. That little island at the top will be the eye, and then you have the mouth and the snout sticking down there. But 21% of the Earth's fresh water by surface is in the Great Lakes, but 53% of the Earth's fresh water by volume. So over half of the world's fresh water is in the Great Lakes, and it's right in our backyard. This is a great visual because it shows the graveyard of the Great Lakes, Lake Superior. All those little icons represent shipwrecks. You can see the head of the wolf there. This shows the weather patterns. It was like a perfect storm, just like the movie The Perfect Storm, November 10th. And the red line shows the trajectory of the Edmund Fitzgerald, and the black line shows the ship that was behind it, the Arthur Anderson, that they were in communication with throughout the voyage, and of course they lost communication around 7:10 p.m. Pictures of Lake Superior. Now, Gordon Lightfoot mentions the Chippewa, and it's pretty interesting because these are the Native Americans who lived in that area before the Europeans started settling. And we know a lot about them from this poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, The Song of Hiawatha. And the first line is by the shores of Gitchagumi, which is what the Native Americans called it. But the interesting thing that I found in my research was that this poem was published on November 10th, 1855, which is the same date of the tragedy. A lot of strange things that you figure out. So there's 4 major shipwreck theories, okay? I'm not really going to go into those too much, but they talked about testing. Okay. The hatch closures, people talk about that, but that's kind of been disproven. Perhaps they scraped the bottom on the 6-fathom shoal. Some people don't accept that one. Stress fracture in the ship. and the three sisters. This is the most romantic, I guess, of the idea that there was three waves, two that lifted the ship up, and the third wave hit the center and cracked the boat in half. And it went down so quickly without any distress signals. And so most people believe that it was this rogue wave, these 35-foot waves that were just engulfing the ship. Okay, just some images of the ship. You can see the whole center area is all iron ore. Okay, the fine art of the tribute. Of course, we heard Gordon Lightfoot's tribute. Okay. This is Gilbert van Frankenhuizen, and he's in this book, the Edmund Fitzgerald, The Song of the Bell. He's an award-winning international artist, and it's a beautiful painting of his. Some other images of the darkened lighthouse, and of course, with the waves building. That's a really intense image right there. And it's 530 feet down. Of course, the front end is upright, the back end is upside down, which a lot of people think that the ship got twisted and just snapped in half, and all that iron ore is fused together. Now, the one line in the song that they talk about, they say that the legend came down from the Chippewa, that the lake never gives up its dead because of the depth. The water is so cold down at the bottom that bacteria can't sit in the bodies, so they can't float to the surface. So they actually think that there are bodies, and people have actually seen the divers going down in the submarines and the nude suits have actually seen them fully clothed from 39 years ago, still in the ship. So it's like a mausoleum. There's another artist's representation. Some more localized tributes. My brother John's tribute of the ship. One of my friends, Matt Conroy, did some images using the 29 to represent the 29 men who lost their lives, the skulls, the memento mori, symbol of mortality. The 29 ghost-like figures surrounding the shipwreck with the blackened lighthouse. The ghost-like figures on the deck of the ship. The newspaper articles from back in the day. Dan Humpart-Zumian's painting. My painting, We're Holding Our Own. That was the last thing, the last communication that Captain Ernest McSorley said when the captain of the Arthur Anderson asked how he was doing with his problem, and right before they went down, he was still positive. We're holding our own in the storm. And this original painting's on display over there. It's compliments of Todd L. Havens. And the thing I like about that is I put some of the lyrics into the water from the song. So again, connecting it to that. Okay. And I just have some other information. There's Edmund Fitzgerald himself and Mrs. Fitzgerald, the day of the christening of the ship. Again, showing the massive size of this boat. One of the lifeboats, which is on display at the Shipwreck Museum at Whitefish Point. One of the life preservers. One of the lighthouses that was not in operation that night. And divers inspecting the wreck. And special thanks to, of course, the Lewis Talents and the Arts, the Brickyard, Great Lakes Brewery, Bruce Wojcik, Jamie Holka, Bob Borgatti, the Beatties, Tom Savagia, John Asklar, my brother, Justin Higner, and Dan Humpart-Zumian for the arts. And may the legends continue to live on. 1995, they went down and they took the bell off of the ship and they brought it to the surface. And what they did is the families all met and they decided they would like to have the bell on the shipwreck museum. So what they did is they engraved the 29 names on the bell and they put a replica of the bell down on the shipwreck. So you can actually see this restored bell. And this is a great book with beautiful paintings that explains that whole story. They had to go down in highly pressurized nude suits to retrieve the bell. And of course, the nickname of the Edmund Fitzgerald is the Mighty Fitz. And at this point in time, what I'd like to do is invite my brother over to the bell so that we can have the tolling of the bell. And Eva and Tim, if they're going to announce the names for us, they can come forward. John, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Testing.
silence, please.
Ernest M. McSorley, 63 years old, Captain, Toledo, Ohio.
John H. McCarthy, 62, mate, Bay Village, Ohio.
James A. Pratt, 44, second mate, Lakewood, Ohio.
Michael E. Arbogast, 37, third mate, Iron River, Wisconsin.
Thomas D. Benson, 23, oiler, St. Joseph, Michigan.
Thomas D. Borgenson, 41, maintenance, Duluth, Minnesota.
John D. Simmons, 60, wheelsman, Ashland, Wisconsin.
Eugene W. O'Brien, 50, wheelsman, Toledo, Ohio.
John J. Poviach, 59, wheelsman, Bradenton, Florida.
Ranson E. Cundy, 53, watchman, Superior, Wisconsin.
William J. Spengler, 59, watchman, Toledo, Ohio.
Carl A. Peckel, 20, watchman, Ashtabula, Ohio.
Mark A. Thomas, 21, deckhand, Richmond Heights, Ohio.
Paul M. Ripa, 22, deckhand, Ashtabula, Ohio.
Bruce L. Hudson, 22, deckhand, North Olmsted, Ohio.
David E. Weiss, 22, cadet, Agora, California.
Robert C. Rafferty, 62, steward, Toledo, Ohio.
Alan G. Coleman, 43, second cook, Washburn, Wisconsin.
Frederick J. Beecher, 56, porter, Superior, Wisconsin.
Nolan F. Church, 55, porter, Silver Bay, Minnesota.
George H. Hall, 60, chief engineer, Cabot, Pennsylvania.
Edward F. Binden, 47, first assistant engineer, Fairport Harbor, Ohio.
Thomas E. Edwards, 50, second assistant engineer, Oregon, Ohio.
Russell G. Haskell, 40, second assistant engineer, Millbury, Ohio.
Oliver J. Champeau, 41, third assistant engineer, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Blaine H. Wilhelm, 52, oiler, Mogal, Wisconsin.
Ralph G. Walton, 58, oiler, Fremont, Ohio.
Joseph W. Mazes, 59, special maintenance, Ashland, Wisconsin.
Gordon F. McClellan, 30.
I don't need a mic. This 30th ring is on behalf of the 30,000 lives lost on the Great Lakes and on other ships, the Benjamin Odell, Daniel J. Morrell, the Noronic, the Eastland, the Griffin, built here in western New York, actually the first shipwreck on the Great Lakes as well, and finally the Regina and all other vessels lost on the Great Lakes in the Great Storm of 1913.
What we'd like to do is have a toast, and then we'll get into some musical inspiration.
Right.
Everybody, there's a glass of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Cheers.